right. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's great to finally meet you because this is how we meet each other nowadays, through Zoom, right?
Yeah,
In fact,
yeah, great
I
to
was
meet
on
you
a
too.
call just the other day, and I did that spiel, and he goes, "Yeah, but I actually prefer it. I prefer Zoom." And I'm
Oh,
like,
interesting.
yeah, he says I can make like 15 calls a day. Otherwise, I'd have to get in my car and have to drive somewhere and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah,
That's
it
funny.
actually kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, I found that there was a point in my business where I was driving all over town. I'd spend up to 3 hours in the car a day,
Yeah.
going from place to place and everything. And I'm like, man, this is just so inefficient. I can't help as many people. And we ended up just saying, okay, no more on site. I got to do Zoom. Now,
Yeah.
I love being in person. But yeah, this is efficient, but I got to have a balance of both. Like
Yeah.
take me downtown to the coffee shop, like meet somebody, and just sit in person and
No, I'm
and
with you.
connect.
I'm with you.
Hmm.
No, I miss that. I miss that. And the balance has to be there. I think you
Absolutely.
definitely have to have the balance. So
Yeah.
sorry. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business and what you're passionate about?
Yeah, my name is Shawn Lemon, and I'm the founder of the Digital Organizer. We've been in business for about 10 years. And what we're known for is helping people understand what's important and where to find it. And that's really what I'm passionate about. I grew up in a household where my parents wanted us to think about why things are the way that they are. And if I was given a
Wow, that's great. I
boombox.
wish my parents did that to me.
Yeah, well, it helped develop that framework of thinking about how do things work. And I remember one year my dad gave us, my brother and me, boom boxes, but we couldn't use them until we read the manual first. Can you believe that?
I love it. I love it.
So
But that's not
yeah,
what you do with boys. The boys, you just start futzing around with it, right? You're not gonna actually, like, maybe the
totally,
girls want to
totally.
read the manual.
Yeah, so my brother lies and he says that he read it, and I actually read it before doing it, before opening it up. But the cool thing was I knew how it worked and he didn't. And so when my friends wanted to make mixtapes for their girlfriends, I could help them out with that and everything
Nice.
because I knew, like, oh yeah, this is how we do it, and the whole thing. So it was fun. But I've always had kind of my wheels turning about how do things work and trying to
Right.
disseminate what's the most important part of this that you need to know, and what are those key things that you need to know to be able to do what you want,
Right.
because the world, especially right now with AI and so many softwares and things that are available to us, we have a ton of choices and
Oh yeah.
everyone like wants to know everything about it, but in the end we have to decide to us what's important,
Yeah.
and figuring that thing out. And so that's what I love doing, and that's basically what our company is built around.
Exactly. So how long? Yeah. So you're a startup. How
Yeah.
big are you?
So I've got one full-time employee, I've got a couple of contractors, and I do sales development, business development, and some of the like most technical work.
Right. Why don't you tell
So
us
we've
a
been
little bit
around.
about your journey? How did you end up doing what you're doing?
Yeah, I worked at the Apple Store for 7 years as a creative, and that's a position where people would buy a computer and they might buy a membership to the one-on-one program, and we would teach them how to use their new gear. And I
Hmm.
love doing it, but people would come in with these huge messes and not know how to get them under control. And so the tech people out there, the consultants, all they wanted to do was make sure that your computer was fast, and they'd set you up with new software, but how you use it, nobody was digging into that. And
Right.
so I left the Apple Store to start my own business doing that. And that was almost 10 years ago. So I just had
Wow.
my 10-year business license, which is cool.
Congratulations. That's great.
Thank you. Thank
So
you.
many companies don't get that far. That's fantastic.
Well, it's like 94% of businesses fail by 10 years,
I know, it's
and
insane. It's
only a
insane.
fraction of that even make it to 1 million in revenue.
Yeah.
So it's it was a long journey, and it felt I think this is just human nature, but I feel like I should be further along than I am.
Don't we
But
all? It's like nowadays with all AI and stuff like that, you're like, oh man, I've been out for 3 months. How come I'm not making $10,000 a month yet?
right,
That guy on Twitter promised me.
exactly. Yeah. And, but you know, some of it, I decided I want to build the business around my lifestyle. Like I didn't want to hustle day in and day out. Like I wanted to spend time with my wife. I wanted to have a life outside of work. And so I built a really balanced business that served me. And then eventually it was like, you know what, let's turn this up a notch and let's take this thing somewhere. And so, you know, started hiring people and figuring out how all that would work. And, you know, it's been a crazy journey.
Fantastic. So what exactly do you do? I
Yeah,
mean, digital organizer
totally.
sounds like you're actually some type of organizer, but that's not the case. Is that right? Like
It's a little bit of
organization
both.
software.
So
Okay.
we're kind of the marriage between IT and operations.
Mhm.
So so people have big messes, and we've narrowed down our scope to focus on email, files, passwords, and project management. Because if you do those four things really well, then you can add to your tech stack and you can add to your system in organized, controlled way and
Mhm.
really understand why you're going to use tools and use them so much more effectively,
Mhm.
and stop wasting a ton of time. And most people haven't perfected this. Like we're going through a sales process with a company of 2,000 employees across the country, and just thinking about if everyone wasted a half hour a day and everyone gets 4 weeks off for the year, we're looking at $6.6 million wasted in payroll.
Wow.
So it's just it's crazy stuff like that. And this is just because their file system sucks. So
Mhm.
we focus on those four areas. And so people come to us because they've got a big mess. Their file system sucks. They're drowning in email. Their project management isn't great either. They don't even have password management. And so we come in and help them overhaul what they're doing, get it all organized, and we take the point person we're working with through a process so that we are teaching them how to do this work and how to think about organization and expanding when business inevitably changes, especially with AI. Our processes change. We want to spin up something new. We want to experiment. How do you deal with all of the assets? And now we're generating stuff faster than ever. So what do we do with all this stuff? What's important and where to find it? So that kind of brings
Right.
us to what the heart of this is all about.
So tell me a little bit about when you realized this is going to work. Like, so like a lot of startups have this, they're like churning and churning and churning and churning. All of a sudden they have like, there's like a turning point when they realize, wow, this is totally viable. This is a great product market fit. It's to the moon. Like at what point, like, when did that happen? And tell me about the circumstances around that.
Well, I think there were a few different points. And so at first I was moonlighting at the Apple store. So, you know, doing everything myself and people wanted it. And then as just referrals. And I had these
Mhm.
champions where I had certain people that they just shouted my name from the rooftops. They loved me, they loved my work. And then, you know, it just spread out from there. So it's just kind of that social proof for myself, you
Mhm.
know, and then that social proof helped other people go from there. And then another turning point was saying, I just want to focus only on organization. I don't want to deal with
Mhm.
your home networks anymore. It's like I never wanted to do that in the first place, but you know,
So you
I'm
ended up
handy in a
being
lot of
the
different
computer
areas.
guy at the same time, right?
I
So
became a break fix computer guy when really what I wanted to do was organization because I
right.
was trying to figure it out. And then I just I saw from past clients there were these core areas. And, you know, the four that I talked about, I mean, the fifth is photos, but I don't do photos. I stopped doing that for a while.
That's
That's
that's a
its
that's
own
a
can of
hairy place to
worms.
be in photos, I
It
think. There's
really
a lot of
is. I mean,
emotion involved when it comes to photos.
a lot of emotion, a lot of things that you don't want to see. It's
Yeah.
just, it's
Oh yeah, I forgot about that part.
yeah. So there was some experience where I'm like, I think I'm done with this one. I'm gonna let a
Are you
photos
sure you
photos.
want me to be organizing this?
Yeah, I need all of this to go away, and
Yeah.
then we'll be ready to work on your photos. So, yeah, so I saw these common themes and realized, okay, I've got a framework here, and let me dig into this. And so I hired someone to help me wrap my head around the framework and create a system out of that framework.
Mhm.
Um, and that was good, but it still wasn't a system by the time we were done. So I hired someone else, And then they really helped me create an entire system around it, with a sort of curriculum. And it scared me to like do that because I've been so custom, and my brain is, what's this unique problem? And let me talk to this person specifically instead of taking them through a process. And it had to be proved. And then it turns out that the guys who were delivering those sessions in with the system were getting better results than the people that I was previously working with, where I was
Hmm.
customizing it to them,
Interesting.
because I didn't keep them on track. I let the client drive. So they loved me
Hmm.
because I would just do whatever they want and wow them and things like that. But then once we put people through the system, then it's like it was very focused. We got them through faster. They were a lot more successful because we could tweak that system. Um,
So now
and
I'm a little confused now because you mentioned curriculums, made it sound like you have online courses, but you also do
oh,
bespoke
okay.
work. So how does that work?
Yeah, sorry to confuse you. So it is curriculum. It is a course, but it's not a course that you can like take with the videos
Mm,
online. We're facilitating someone going through that process together. So what we
interesting.
realize is most of the people who would come to us, they either want it all done for them, which
Hmm.
it doesn't work, and so we don't do it. Um, or they want someone to help them through that process. And so, yeah, we teach and through this hands-on process so that they're actually learning. So it is a course, and we'll probably turn it into a video-driven course with the option for hands-on help as well for the people who want a lower entry price for that. But then they still want the hands-on help, because that's the thing that I always run into with courses is like, okay, how well, but in this situation I don't fit the mold.
Right.
And so we,
Yeah, because you're kind of doing a hybrid sort of hand holding
that's
slash
right.
course, which is
Yeah,
not really, it's like one or the other. It's like you're not doing the bespoke consulting work, but at the same time you're also not doing like a Udemy type course that I can just watch some videos and get through.
right,
So you're doing
right.
that hybrid. I've
Mhm,
never really actually seen that. I've heard about that working, but it
mhm.
sounds like it works really well for what you're doing.
It does. And I know some other people who are doing not the same thing that we are, but in the operation space, helping kind of take people through a process, but then do that hand holding as well. And I'm actually a part of a marketing, or I'm a client of a marketing company that they have all the playbooks, they create the marketing strategy and everything. And I'm doing the majority of the work, but everything gets turned into the coach for
Mm,
review, editing and things like that. So this morning I just got feedback from a couple of different things that I had turned in. So it's a really interesting model of having a framework that we know works, but having somebody to help you customize it and apply it to your unique situation.
yeah.
So
No, I
I
really like that
personally
because you're
love
really
it.
providing a lot of value, because it seems
Mhm.
like a lot of times the cookie cutter courses are great, but they don't quite apply to
Right.
your specific situation. Whereas you've got this sort of custom piece where you can
Hmm.
actually sort of modify the
Yeah.
course based on what your clients are looking
Yeah.
for.
And there's a lot of people out there who freeze up when they have a lot of options, or they get scared, like, I don't know if this is good enough and stuff. And that's always been me, like perfectionist. I want it perfect. Like I hampered myself so much at the beginning of the business because I was scared to screw it up. And
Mm,
honestly, I kind of sucked at writing, like doing blog posts. I was just all over the place.
right.
Um, and so, then I would have someone proofread it before I sent it out, thinking that it was done. And they're like, I don't get this. You got to rework the whole thing. And it just crushed me, which
Oh my
now I
God,
love
that's
ChatGPT.
terrible.
I know, but it's part of the process.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
forced me to learn or stop. And I did both of those things, on and off. But that's why I love ChatGPT right now is it forces me to get more clear about what the intention is, what the heart of it is, what the deliverable
Oh yeah,
is.
absolutely.
And it's like, what a great training tool for people to learn how to delegate.
Hmm.
Because if you didn't put in the correct prompt, then you're not going to get the right results. And so many people fail in hiring because they're like, I just need someone with a brain who can think. And you're like, well, you did.
You
It's
need to narrow it
usually,
down just a little bit more than that.
yeah, it's probably, you need to get better direction.
Right. Right.
Mm, so
Fantastic. So when did you, so you said there was a point where you were just doing it yourself and then you realized you needed to expand. And
yeah,
at that point, did you have the online course and the structure that you have today at that point, or did you decide
no,
to?
yeah. So how it worked is, I actually spent 2 years on the road living in an Airstream with my wife, and we just
Nice.
traveled around and worked
I'd love to
remotely.
do that. That's great. Did you
Yeah.
did you go around the entire country, or did you stay in
Yeah, yeah,
specific
we spent
areas?
most of the time in the Northeast or Northwest, and
Hmm.
then a good bit of time in San Diego. Once I started surfing, and I'm like, I can't stop. So that was the last 6 months. We parked, and I'm like, I'm
You're
sorry,
stuck.
Madeline, like we can't leave. I loved it so much. But then eventually we did have to come home, and I'm like, let's do this. And so I already knew, I was already narrowing down what I was doing, but then I got an assistant, and my capacity expanded tremendously. And realized, oh
Hmm.
my goodness, I can do so much more now that I don't have to do these tasks. And that gave me, then I could start, stacking away dollars for business development, because I was just working all the time, and it was really profitable. And so, okay, now let me hire someone to help take me through a process, because I'm inside the bottle. I can't read the label. Like, I need someone else's perspective to help me through this process.
Right.
And so that was 2018, 2019 that I ended up hiring somebody to help me take my framework and really start systematizing it. And then 2020, I hired somebody, another person, and they like really helped turn it into a system and a whole
Nice.
like curriculum, from my solid framework and process.
Very,
So
very cool. And then
mhm.
did you get, and I'm assuming you also incorporated feedback into everything that you were doing.
Yeah, not as much as I should have. I I have only recently started doing more forms of like intake and exit, and feedback and everything of where you were at before and after, and what we could have done better and everything. It was always off to the next thing.
Yeah.
And so like creating that sort of stuff wasn't at the forefront of my mind. I always wanted it, but I never got around to doing it until now.
Right.
That's just like, I've got most other people delivering the, the service. So now I'm like, okay, we're going to create this every single time. We got to have this feedback and everything, and, go from there.
So it sounds like you first started by finding your customers, started through your job, but I
Yeah.
mean, how do you find your customers today? Like, how do you bring new customers into the fold? Is it all referrals, or do you do any kind of outreach, or what's your sales
Yeah,
process like
it's
right now?
it's Google. If you search digital organizer after Amazon's products, uh, we're number one. So we're the top service. So we're the first real result for that. So that helps. We get a lot from that. We get a lot of referrals.
Did
Um,
you pick that name because of its SEO power, or
Part of
did
it,
you just, yeah,
yeah.
interesting.
And when I polled my audience, like, hey, here's, the idea that I want to, rebrand, because it started originally as ShawnLemon.com and Lemon Consulting, because I couldn't think of
Hmm.
something better. And, years passed.
We
I'm like,
always
this
start
is,
like that. We
yeah,
always do.
yeah. It's like, this has got to change. And it's like, you know what? I want to do organizing. And I got a number of people like, you are so much more than that, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, but I want to niche down. And how do I scale when I'm working in 30, 40 different apps? Like, I'm dealing with all these different networks and ISPs. It's just like, how do you train someone on 10 years of experience full-time troubleshooting random stuff? I
Yep.
can't.
Yep.
Plus, what I want to do is help people figure out what's important and where to find it, so that they can create, so they can do the stuff with technology that they bought it for in the first place.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so
So how did you hire somebody to do SEO for your company, or
no, no, it's
you
just the
just did it
name,
yourself?
and
Just the
I'd
name.
written blog posts, years and years of blog posts, and
Is that all on your site right now?
No,
Your years and years
no,
of
that's
blog posts?
actually a funny story. So I screwed it up like big time, big time. I mean, I almost like bankrupted the company because of it. So this is so just classic of somebody new to hiring other people and having people work for you. So um the guy who systematized my stuff, he's fantastic at operations and he sucks at marketing. And
Mhm.
just, he's a philosophy major and
I'm a philosophy
super
major.
idealistic. And I love it. I love the way this guy thinks. And in so many ways, we're very similar. But it's like marketing and like rigid philosophy of how things should be done from an idealistic standpoint don't really go together all that well.
Mhm.
Of everything has to be completely black and white. And like you can say that this person got double, or was able to take on twice the clients in half the time because that's what she said and what it
Yeah.
was. I'm not guaranteeing that everyone is going to increase their capacity
Yeah, it's a
4x.
testimonial, right? I mean,
Right, it's a
your mileage may
testimonial. Like
vary.
we can say this. So anyway, he's building the new website and we're on the Squarespace platform, and Squarespace goes from 7.1 to 7.2. Cool upgrade, right?
Mhm.
Well, it turns out there's no upgrade path. So if you've got blog posts, 300, 350 blog posts, and you want to upgrade to the new site after he's built out the whole thing and didn't tell me that it wasn't
Oh
upgradable.
no.
I'm like, dude, pause, hold the phone. And there's a whole explosion of like, oh my God, I've spent so much time on this and we're ready to launch in 2 days. And you're saying, hold the phone,
Oh
maybe
man.
redesign since we have to import all this stuff, we should go to WordPress.
Yeah, move to a different platform while
Oh
you're at
my
it.
God. So I asked a friend of mine who's SEO and he's like, dude, you got to pull this stuff over. And I'm like, well, here's the deal. All of that content was written from a um what is it, like individual standpoint and like very Mac centric and talking about
Yeah.
technology as a whole, when our business is totally flipped and
Yeah.
now it's all about organization. So this content doesn't really
Doesn't fit
align
anymore. Yeah.
with who we are now. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, what if we just drop it? Like, will we lose the digital organizer? Because while people read those other articles, I've never gotten a single actual lead from those articles.
Right.
It's people searching the digital organizer, but I didn't realize how much those articles prop up the site. And that's
Mhm.
what gives you authority and why Google puts you at #1 or whatever your top position is.
Exactly.
So we went ahead and went for it anyway. I pulled a couple of blog posts over. Never ended up optimizing the SEO. And next thing you know, I'm like, where the F are my leads? And we do a Google search and I'm on page 3. I'm like,
Oh
oh
no.
my God.
Damn
Oh
it.
my God. So I made some SEO changes and it was actually really fast and we were back up to #1.
Oh, that's good.
But
But you hear so many
yes.
horror stories about them changing the algorithm. I have a friend of mine who does online drop shipping sales of all sorts of different things, and he has like 40 different websites, and they sell different things.
Yep.
And he has these horror stories where there was a small change to his algorithm, and his sales went from 40K a month to zero in
Oh
that
my God.
particular because
Wow.
suddenly they basically disappeared from the site. So
Yeah.
it's pretty scary when these kind of things happen, right? Then
Yeah, totally.
can't do
Yeah.
much about it.
hmm
We're
So
stuck.
yeah, there's still other SEO terms that we're looking to hit, some ones with like high intent, but I'm realizing like I've got to figure out what the best focus is. And right now I'm actually doing a ton of podcasts because why not leverage other people's platforms? Like
Sure.
podcasts are hungry for content. So
Yeah.
let's have great conversations and I can refine my message and and I can reach more people and talk about it, and whether or not they come to the website, hopefully they'll get something out of it, at least
Right.
hearing stories or understanding how we think about this or what the process is for how do you get control of all of your tech when you've been adding tools and you've been adding contractors and there's no organization. How do you go about the process of cleaning it up? So helping
Yeah.
people give a framework around it is, I'm
Love it.
excited about. And it's
So you
cool.
mentioned AI earlier. How's AI
Yeah.
affected? How's ChatGPT 3 and all these other tools affected your business right now or recently?
So as far as impacting incoming leads and the work that we do, not much. It's impacted tremendously because of a content standpoint, because I've got tons of ideas, but if I just write a blog post from scratch, I'm going to end up with 3 different topics, and it's going to
Right.
go all over the place because that's how my brain works. Oh, this is connected to this, which is
Yep.
connected to this.
Yep.
So I toss in ChatGPT. It helps sort it, rearrange, and say, oh, okay, let me run with this theme. And then I can go back and forth with it to refine and then create something that, is in a nice tight framework, with good imagery and everything. And so it's allowed me to clarify my writing so much more, and pump stuff out quickly and get feedback of, oh, this is the direction that we need to go in if I'm going to create a new landing page or something. That it happens so much faster
Yeah.
than working with a marketing company and a copywriter who, it takes them a while to write that paragraph, and then I come back with my feedback, and
Yeah.
now it's
The
just so
cycle
much
time
faster.
definitely. So you're using it for marketing. Have you used it at all for, say, optimizing your current flow? I mean, have you pushed your stuff into it and said, hey, can you do better?
Um, Somewhat, but the so with the flow, generally with the limitations that I've run up against is I'm giving it too much at
Mm.
once, and then it's not keeping the context. And so I've got to figure
Yes,
out
that is the problem.
yeah, and so it's just like this thread. I know you're talking about writing this book, and then it forgets the characters and all of these things. It's the same thing that I'm having with this. So it's like, how do I create a model? By the way, if anyone loves this stuff, they're into it, how to build the model to be able to feed information in or create some of the tools we'll talk about next with the 10 years into the future.
Hmm.
Reach out to me, Shawn at thedigitalorganizer.com, SHAWN. I'd love to see if we can come up with something cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's being able to put all that stuff in and do it. It's like, oh, there's some good suggestions in there, but the human factor still isn't there. Like, okay, the internal motivation and everything of what we're doing, because that's most of the work we're doing is all mental.
Yeah.
And helping people really understand and get that framework of how you think about something. And that's not what ChatGPT does very well.
No.
Um, so yeah, that part it hasn't been able to do very well.
Yeah.
But
Well, since you
I'm
mentioned it, it's the year
mhm,
2033. It's 10 years from now.
yes.
Where are you? I mean, have you basically decided to retire in San Diego and you're surfing every day while your AI in the background is handling all of your business, or
I
you don't
can
want that?
never stop solving problems. So I would not
I
be
know. I say
retired.
once a problem solver, always a problem solver. It's like this. This is where you
Yes.
get how you have fun. It's like,
Yeah,
give me a thorny problem
totally.
and let me work with it, and
Yeah.
I'll enjoy myself. So
Yeah. Yeah. I 10 years from now, I better be surfing a heck of a lot more than I am now, for sure. Cause I'm
what, do
landlocked
you
in
live in San
Tennessee.
Diego?
No, I'm in Tennessee now. I'm
Oh
just south
man,
of
you
Nashville and
didn't, no
Franklin.
waves anywhere near there.
No waves anywhere. Well, actually, I wake surf
Oh, there you go.
off the
We got
back
to
of a
keep up your
boat.
skills, man. You got to make sure you
Exactly.
keep your skills
So
going.
yeah. So definitely need to be doing more surfing. I think that this job is going to change a lot.
Mm,
That's why it's so important to keep the heart of understanding what's important and where to find it, and that being the focus behind it, and not as much of let's organize email and figure out the flow and certain things like that. A lot of that I think will be automated with AI, project management, the organization of files, file naming convention, and things like that. I think that there is just a massive opportunity for AI to render a lot of that stuff useless, which is cool. But I think it's going to be a while, like
yeah.
unless we start getting these like smaller models where we train it a framework of thinking, and then the model asks us questions
Mm,
to help clarify our thinking so that we can get a good result. Once it starts asking us questions to get a really clear result, and then from there being able to take action on it, I think that may be a while. And it's going to go where can we make the most money from it first, and then file organization and some of the other things are going to trickle in
Oh yeah.
afterwards. So I
Well, do you
think,
ever think to yourself, the reason why you're in this mess or your customers are in this mess is because of how these tools are the way they are, like the email and file
Mhm.
systems, all of these tools that you have to deal with.
Yeah,
It seems like they could be built better, right? So that you don't
yeah,
have to do so much organizing. But why hasn't this changed? I mean, it's almost like there should be some kind of Uber tool that figures all this stuff out for you and only
right.
presents you with the stuff that's important. I mean, how far away do you think we are from something like that?
I mean, your guess is probably better than mine. Being the person who has conversations with people about this all the time, it I I think the ability to ask you the questions and create kind of that, yeah, create some models and say, hey, I want to organize it based on this, and then it can give you better suggestions. I think that could be pretty soon.
Mhm.
Um, if someone focuses on it, that's what I'm kind of interested in. Like, if someone listening knows how to do this stuff, like, let's figure out how to make it,
Yeah.
and get it there faster. Um, but then pairing that up with an API for Google Drive to be able to analyze all of the information in there, disseminate what's duplicates or similar, and what appears to be a draft from the creation date versus a final product, and what the most recent version is and who worked on it, and being able to see the version history of who worked on what when, to be able to find that stuff. Um, I think there's a good bit of engineering, like, thinking that's would need to take place in order to kind of
So would
get
that
it
be a
there.
space that you'd be interested in, or like, I mean,
I'd be
if you
interested
think
in
about
directing it.
the logical
Yeah,
extension of where your business is
absolutely.
going, is it
I
going to turn into some kind of product that people
Yeah,
can spend money?
totally. Yeah, because when
Mhm.
I worked at the Apple Store, I would do all of these certifications, and so it was especially when I was doing Final Cut. I remember thinking about how there were certain aspects of it that I didn't like and that weren't practical, because I learned Avid first, and then I went to Final Cut after that. And I remember thinking, this experience isn't good. This would be better. And it's always been kind of a fantasy of mine to be a liaison between engineers and people
Mhm.
to create better software that's, really captures the heart of what people do, and how they're actually using it to make it better. And so being able to be part of a process, the process of developing how do you train AI? Like, what are the questions AI needs to ask a person to be able to get to the result?
Right.
And, from everything that I've heard, we're kind of a ways off from seeing that across the board. Correct me if I'm
Right.
wrong. You know
No, no,
better
no.
than
But
me.
I mean, are you seeing yourself? I always see that there's this sort of layer of personal AI that needs to sort
Mm.
of come on top of everything that we're doing.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
it's like where we are right now is that we are doing a lot of manual work with these tools that
Yeah,
are the way they are. Email is the
yeah,
way it is,
yeah.
right? Google
Mhm.
Docs is the way it is. Word is the way it is. These are office tools that are basically replicants of things that we used to use when we had no computers, right? I mean,
Mhm.
mail is like letters,
Mhm.
and we haven't. And I think there's been some attempts to create tools to integrate everything
Yeah,
and make that happen. But I think now's so we're at the strongest point in history where you can actually build some kind of AI layer that
yeah,
does exactly what you're talking about. Is that
yeah.
something that you see that's coming in the future for your company, or?
I sure hope so. That's why, yeah,
Yeah,
it's at this point, like, I'm trying to run the business, develop it, and do all these things. And I'm like, I want to get there,
yeah,
but I had no idea how to get there right now.
yeah,
Of like, who do I talk to who knows how to create this and kind of get it there? Is this something that's actually relatively easy and I've got my own limiting beliefs behind it? Or is this a pretty big engineering feat with, the guy from Yumba or whatever that you interviewed who
Yembo, yeah,
does, yeah.
yeah,
The guy's been at it for a long time,
yeah.
figuring this stuff out. So what kind of project are we looking at? But I really would love to be at the forefront of that, and helping to design that sort of thing for sure.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, hopefully is that your 5-year plan or your 10-year plan? It was like, I'd love to see that happen as well, because,
Yeah.
we're all inundated. We're all spend so much time working with these tools, and
Yeah.
it's like, my God, I just spent my entire day answering emails or something like
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
It's like, and that's been happening for what, 20 years, 30, 40 years, ever since
Yeah.
email started. It's
Yeah.
like, it has not changed. So
Hmm.
figuring out
And
some way of solving that issue would be great.
yeah, totally. Because I mean, we've had AI for email for a long time.
Yep.
Sanebox.com. I mean,
Yep.
Sanebox is also, I've been using it for 10 years,
Yep.
but still, like, we'll get somebody new set up, and I've got really strict guidelines of how we set people up with Sanebox, because it doesn't make the good choices and it doesn't ask us what's important. And that's the
Exactly.
thing, like, that I
Exactly.
see just
So,
everywhere, even on,
we should do this interview again in a few years and see how far
yeah,
you've gotten, because
that'd
I'd
be
love to
great.
see the progress on this. And
Yeah.
I'll be your first customer, man. Sign me up.
Cool. Well, hopefully someone out there listening who loves this stuff and has got an idea, we can chat and see where to go from here.
Awesome. So, if someone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way? Through email or LinkedIn, or just go to your
Yeah,
website?
I would say head over to thedigitalorganizer.com. You can reach out to us there, like through the site. I've set up a little landing page for Think Future. So if you go to thedigitalorganizer.com/think future,
Nice.
I've got a little guide that you can download, which is the framework of how we think about digital organization, so that you can apply what we're doing to your own situation, and hopefully it'll help you get more organized if that's something that you're into.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This has been great talking with you.
Yeah,
But we'll
thank you.
definitely set up a time in like a few years to reconnect and see how far you've
Totally.
gotten.
I'm going to
All
set
right.
myself a reminder when we hang up this call.
Sounds good. Thank you,
Cool.
sir. Have a good
Thank
one.
you.
Bye.
Bye.